This topic is about understanding the stakeholders, especially the consumers and users. And consumers can be summarized to be both the customers and users. But anyway, the idea is that we have a lot of internal thinking within the organizations. There are a lot of people who think the IT is the solution. They are managing the IT and their world is the IT. And they go IT first, or that's not bad, they go IT only. And that ends up in very tricky situations. Like today in the January 26, the ITIL 5 was launched, and the foundation course has currently no reference practically to incidents or practices, the basic things that we have used to do for the last 25 years. And there are a lot of opinions, and afterwards everything can be justified. But then considering that also that framework is about understanding customers and managing IT services, and it remains to be seen whether it has actually listened to the voice of the customers and consumers. That key things to learn from are the basic stuff that people do, and they usually that kind of stuff is part of the foundation. Even now it's not in the scope of foundation, but the understanding of the big picture, seeing the forest from the trees seems to be the approach, which is justified also, so no bad about it. Anyway, that is example of thinking that we should emphasize, and our users we should discuss with them, and therefore get the picture to do the right things. And that is the idea of the consumer interaction. If we are the service provider, we need to get our share, otherwise it's not sustainable for us. But even more, the consumers must get there from the service, and that means that the service does the right things and preferably in the right way. So in order to end up doing the right things in the right way, you should know what the consumers are trying to achieve with your service. So therefore, do that one first and only design and build and operate your IT service afterwards. And also during your service life cycle, uh, listen to the consumers, because the world and their service usage is changing. So the same thing you asked from them when you set up the service is not the same answers you get after a few years of running the service. So therefore, it's both in the beginning as well as an ongoing interaction. Therefore, the idea of consumer interaction, the next process. So you should start the interaction already before you start to design the service, but at latest when you start designing the service. And you should continue doing that one as long as you are providing the service. And this is all for avoiding to do that you would do something that the consumers don't need or use, and avoid the waste. Why not to do the good right thing right with the same effort? Therefore, be active in interaction. To split this one into pieces, the benefits are that through the interaction you understand what the customer need so that they can meet their outcomes. And you have a practice of regular verification that they are experiencing the service in the right way, they are getting the value out of it, and it's not just ensuring that they are getting value, but also knowing how they get the value, because there's always room for improvement, how to get more with the same effort, and therefore it requires this sustainable input for what is the consumption and what the consumers need. There might be some need or agreement to report back to customers and consumers that your service has been delivering as what has been agreed. So what is relevant information varies through the time, and therefore you need to ask that what is relevant and in what format. So with that one, you don't need to follow up stuff that is irrelevant and waste your effort over there. And as said, the service can do things better and you can deliver your services in the right way if you understand how the consumers use the service and what for. So consumers want to achieve their own goals and they get value from your service because your service helps them to get the outcomes that they need to reach their goals. So it's different, their value is different from your value, and therefore, in order to understand them, you need to ask them or interact with them. So is it there might be different things that are relevant for the consumers. Is it about they getting the revenue, which is usually a relevant part? Is it not that much of getting revenue, but saving time because they use your service? Is it the ease and effort of the service or the technical outcome of the service that makes them happy? Is it enabling them to gain new customers or market share, even though it doesn't show up in the actual profit? Or is it about sustainability or something else? So you need to ask the consumers so that you know what they want, so you can actually then, in the right way, help them to achieve that one with your service. And yeah, that comes through interaction. I mean, you can guess something, but you will always guess wrong in some aspect. So therefore, ask to confirm. If not just nothing else, then just to confirm whether your assumptions that you had were correct, and you will likely face an answer to find out that you were not exactly correct in your assumptions. So therefore, do the job. So this consumer interaction has an input to many of your work, and when you go into the consumers and you ask what they want out of your service, you will get a big list of things. They are often referred to as requirements, and it's impossible to meet all of those ones. So therefore, you should prioritize this list and split it at least into two parts. This is what the ITSM Express describes. And you should have the basic functionality that is enough to attract enough customers, consumers to use your service, and implement those ones first. And then leave the rest of them into some future for premium functionality. And with this one, you will at least avoid the fact that you would actually try to do everything for everybody, because it's impossible. And the practical thing when you're doing this analysis, you will actually have a sanity check that can I attract enough customers with my basic functionalities. And within that one, you will make a balancing act between whether you're providing a standard service or whether you're providing some customized options into some extent. But these were the consumer requirements, very much driving what the customer wants to have and what is your service, and you will actually complement them with your own internal requirements, what it requires from you to do the service and provide it in an efficient and effective way. But more about that one in this coming service design, to which this is an input. So of course, the services can be for consumers or for businesses. When we are sharing services or delivering services to consumers, I mean in private consumers, then the same persons are usually both the customers and users. But when we are selling services or providing services to enterprises, then there are usually different people in the role of the customer and in the role of the users. So the customer, which is also referred to here as the consumer, is the party who making decision on the service, is the organization meeting the organizational outcomes with the service, and they have a certain perspective of what is good. Is it like, does it have all necessary features, even though not all single users would use all of those ones? Is the billing correct? Is the that kind of stuff correct from a whole buying organization perspective? And then there's a separate layer and separate set of things that are relevant for user, like is it easy to use, is it friendly to use, Are the incidents solved in a fast way? And therefore the user experience is a different aspect of interaction. But they are both important, the CX and the UX. And if there are both stakeholder groups that you should closely look at and provide a service that meets their needs. But even though there are touch points for both of these tracks, how the consumers interact with you or how the users interact with you, notice also that your employees also are a relevant part of the system. So they should also feel happy about providing the service, because otherwise they will find another job and you would have nobody to provide the service. So therefore, equally well, ask them how they are feeling the providing of the service, and also help their ways to provide the service. It usually also contributes to the efficiency in providing the service, but look at their experiences too. There are many things about concerning the service that you need to design in the first phase and then improve afterwards. These are all part of the service design that really the choices are made. But the input for that one is coming also plenty of from the customers. So therefore, the customers and users in form of consumers also affect the requirements for what the service is and how it's used. And some part of these ones can be also in the agreement, meaning that you formally promise that certain things happen. But even though if they are not in the agreement, it may often make sense to design the service from their perspective and monitor whether the aspects are being followed. So the aspects that you may also ask the user is that makes it easy to use, what are the functionalities that they need, what kind of invoice they want, and how they want to be interacted on onboarding and also after the onboarding. How do they want to suggest changes, or how do they want, for example, want the communication when restoring an incident, or how do they want to log improvements. These are all interaction related stuff, interactions with the customer, and then how to do them in a smart way is what you get from by understanding, emphasizing, and discussing with the consumers. Technically, we talk about later about monitoring separately, but we will then talk about what things to monitor and report. But of course, the interaction brings in that what is relevant, what is the information the consumers need from the service, and how, in order to make a judgment for buying the service or continuing using the service. And that might be some of those same technical stuff that we measure, or something uh, non-technical stuff, like how users feel about the service or how satisfied they are about the service provider, which are subjective metrics. This consumer interaction is one form of relationship management, and it serves a lot of purposes as an input to design, and of course on ongoing stuff. But try to avoid this one-size-fits-all attitude. Even though it's the easiest for you, notice that the consumers are different and they are pursuing different things with different priorities. So therefore, the same solution cannot make everybody equally happy. So therefore, you must ask them what makes them happy and then acknowledge that they are different. And this gives you the point of or level of customization within your service itself or the provision of the service that enables you to make your provided service good enough. Second thing is that because it's so difficult to measure all the customers about all their things, you need to simplify it to give internal targets that lead to satisfied customers. But notice that they are not the real promises to customer. So therefore they must be aligned and not completely different. And second, I think learning is that whatever kind of metrics you will give internally, it becomes the target. That's usually by the nature. If you give a person a number, that will actually become the target. And try to figure your way out of that one, that they are at least aligned what has been promised to customers, but still bridge the gap of the abstraction that we avoid the situation that we are green on the inside outside but red on the inside, the kind of watermelon effect. So explain the contracts, bring the news from the customers, what makes them happy, and revisit the internal targets if such exist, that they are aligned, and you can meet the customer promises known as the SLAs with the internal targets that you are trying to provide. Usually the consumer interaction might take place when you plan a new service, but try to make it somehow constant in that sense, that the world is changing and the customers' expectations are changing. Take those as facts and therefore force yourself to interact with the consumers in regular intervals. And that should lead into improvements, meaning that adding new needs or fine-tuning existing ones. And if there are no changes in your service with a reference to customer needs, then most likely it's very unlikely that it will sustain customer satisfaction in the long run. And notice that the customers and consumers are different, so not the same way of interaction works with everybody. Like with if we have a consumer high level that is distributed into customers and users, you may meet the customers, but there are just simply too many users to interact with all of those ones. So that's an example where you need at least two different kind of interaction methods for different kind of audiences. So make a book of tricks and then use that book of tricks for interaction with different customers and different kind of service reference groups. So that was the first stage of in itsm express, and that gave a good start. It was quite a lot of stuff that should happen on organizational level, and we will shortly jump into the next stage that is more looking like what an individual service could look like.